Yes. All right. Well, I'm excited to get my session started. So, this is going to be a general ProAV update session. Joining me, we have Victoria Ferrari, Mark Donovan, and then I think we're going to have one more guest come as soon as we can get them on. But welcome, you guys. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, thank you.
So, I'd like to go ahead and start by just having you both introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about who you are and what you do. Mark, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Mark Donovan. I am the manager of the Applications Engineering Division at Audio Technica US and have been for the last almost 15 years.
Very cool. Victoria?
I'm Victoria Ferrari. I'm a senior design consultant for CTI, an audiovisual integrator here in the US, and I've been in the AV industry for about 20 plus years.
Very cool. So, oh, and look at that. Right in the nick of time, we have Kevin Henneman. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Steph. Good. How are you?
Doing well. So, you are just in time. I was just having Mark and Victoria just talk a little bit about who they are and what they do. So, I'll have you go ahead and do that too.
So I'm Kevin Henneman. I'm the president and owner of KMH Integration. We are a systems integrator located in New York City. We do work pretty much all over the continental U.S., and that's who we are. There you go.
Very cool. So the first question that I want to throw to you guys, and I'm just going to throw each of these out and let you guys kind of just whoever wants to take it first can take it. I love when you guys bounce off of each other and respond to each other. And I'll also go ahead and I'll pepper in audience questions if we get any just mixed in. But I wanted to ask, first of all, what trends have emerged in Pro AV system design over the past 6 months to a year that you guys think are shaping the industry in new ways?
I can go first if you want. So trends there, that's sort of an easy one, not necessarily dealing with the trends, but what we've seen, I mean, we started, our business started in the broadcast sector, if you will, and then we fairly quickly grew into like working on more what were considered traditional AV type systems. But what's happened in the last 2 years or so is that the AV over IP and the protocols that support that have sort of merged together, and we now have seen that the trend is that we have corporate and education, and pretty much everybody now is able to put high quality audio and video in spaces that were sort of being treated as well. It's kind of good enough that we can see and hear people. That's not the approach anymore. The approach now is, well, I want a 4K camera in my conference rooms. I want the ability to mix audio and to basically, we're designing and building rooms that are being called broadcast light, and it's sort of just a merging of what's available out there right now, technology wise.
Yeah, to back that up, Kevin, I completely agree with that. Like you said, that bar of what is expected out of the quality has certainly gone up, and a lot of that's been driven by a lot of new innovations and things. So the expectations of those end users is certainly much higher, and it even take it to the point where now they're starting to understand just how they can manipulate some of that technology. And a lot of the things I've been dealing with in the last 6 months, certainly in a boardroom type environment, is just exponentially more calls on, how can we integrate camera tracking and all this, stuff. So, they're getting much more savvy about what can be done. So helping guiding them that way is really, really taking a lot of my time, I'll tell you.
Yep, agreed. I mean, I would say that also, and I hate doing this because they're sort of buzzwords and buzz phrases, and we've all been dealing with that over the years. Is different technology emerges, but we have people now saying to us that they're mixing and matching. So they're like, whoa, it's become a very, if you want to talk about trends, I mean, for us as an integrator, and we do a lot of that front end consulting too. A recent project we did, we had the architect was underneath us, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, the MEP folks were underneath us, and the acoustician. which is sort of new, but not really, because we all have to deal with those things. We have to deal with those trades and those disciplines no matter what. But so what I've seen is that the amount of software driven solutions certainly has increased. And maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was, everyone's talking about, we're gonna virtualize everything. And between that and cloud systems that are available, or solutions that are available, I mean, to us, it's just sort of like another. There are more tools in your toolkit, and depending upon the business model for the end user, some things might make more sense because they're more OpEx based. Other things might make more sense because they want to spend CapEx money. Or it's really just. The trends are that there's a lot more tools at our fingertips. And the last little buzz, the AI sort of, part of this, which I had somebody say to me about a year ago, right before NAV last April. One of our customers said, "Kevin, I really need you to go look around and find out what AI can do to help us." I'm like, that's a pretty broad statement. Like, can we can we can we define like where you want the help or where you need the help? And in their defense, that they're not sure. They just see that there's all these cool things happening. And and a simple thing there that is not simple. I shouldn't say simple, but when you use a piece of software that does like a newsroom system a rundown system, create your automated playlist, and launch your lower thirds and prompters and all those things. There's a bit of that now happening where there's you can script a show using voice recognition, AI slash, we're not really doing that yet, but it's kind of there. And I'm expecting that we will be doing things like that for sure. But that depends upon the end user, because there are other people that say, no, 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 I want the dynamics of a live control room. We're doing a live show, and we want that kind of capability. We don't want to get away from that. Other people are like, yeah, but we're just doing like a couple of talking heads, and we're going to cut back and forth, and we have some B-roll, and why do I need 4 people in a control room or 6 people in a control room? Well, you don't. If you're going to sort of stay in that production mode, you don't, especially with the software tools that are out there now. But but then the next thing you'll get is a couple months later, like, hey, we want to do a live sports show out of that same room, and we want to have remotes integrated, and so it's like, well, we talked about that, and you didn't say that 4 months ago or 6 months ago. So
Right.
there's my more than 2 cents on that.
Victoria, anything you've noticed to add?
Nothing that these guys haven't included. I mean, I think what's really cool is that the clients are becoming more educated in a way in what they want. They don't know how to get there, but at least they know, who to go to and kind of what they want. And it's exciting that they do want higher quality stuff. Before it was like, hey, let's sit around the table and everybody open up your laptops and we'll just use the camera and the laptop and shift it around. And now it's like, hey, we want multiple cameras. We want everybody to be picked up. We want tracking. And so that's great. The other thing that they mentioned was in regards to, I feel like the architects are also becoming, more aware that AV needs to come in earlier, and it's important to get, a consultant hired early on in the process. And so we're seeing that more and more, and we have a division dedicated to meeting with architects and doing designs and things like that. And so that's a great trend. Something we've always wanted for the longest time was to meet with the architects earlier on in the process. So
Yeah, no, great points all around for sure. That does kind of lead me into my next question. I did want to ask about, client needs and expectations for sure have evolved recently, and it seems like that's happening quite rapidly. So, what strategies do you guys seeing being used to meet those demands? And Mark, even from the manufacturer side of things, I'm interested to see how you guys are listening to your integrator partners to help meet those demands as well.
Well, it is a key point for all of us. Every one of us here, from the sales team to the applications team, the people that are, actually talking to integrators and consultants day by day. I mean, we seriously take notes about, what kind of things are coming up, what kind of requests, no matter how odd they may sound, because you got to dig in a little bit deeper. And I think that, certainly, and this goes a little bit what Victoria was talking about with the customers knowing more what they want. You know, traditionally as AV people, we've always been the kind of people that have been, well, I'm not sure if we can do that, but let's give it a shot. Let's try something. Let's at least go down that path. And like I said, we're very careful in taking down notes. And in fact, a lot of uh, not to get too far off track, but a lot of our firmware that changes that we've made in the last year to one of our popular products, our ceiling array, have actually been to bring specific request functionality from our integrators. So yeah, we're actively listening.
Yeah, Victoria, Kevin, I'm interested to hear what you guys are hearing in terms of like end user customer demands and expectations and how you guys are working to meet those.
I want to comment on what Victoria said, and I agree 1,000%. The interface between the architects and the customer's team about what they're trying to accomplish in a new facility or with a new system, it's really important. And Victoria, we've been saying the same thing, like get us in earlier, please. So we're not dealing with, walls that are too shallow or acoustic issues or whatever. So Steph, what's actually the question is what are we seeing from the end user side to what are they asking for kind of thing?
Yeah, and kind of two different questions. What are they asking for and how have their needs and expectations evolved recently and what are you guys doing to meet those demands?
I'll just, Victoria, if it's okay, I'll go just real
Yeah.
quick on that is one thing that's worth, I guess, mentioning is with the proliferation of cloud solutions, a lot of our customers are now doing global type access to their content. Now that's not unusual, but that was only for like the larger networks and the people that had more money, let's say, where they were like, yeah, well, we're doing the Olympics, so we're doing this, and we're in Japan, we're here, we're there. But now, pretty much across the board, people want to be able to. The COVID remote scenario triggered a lot of people going, well, wait a minute. If I could work from home and I could do all these things, or I could work from wherever, hotel, whatever, how can we expand upon that? So we're seeing that for sure. That and with a cloud platform, and and a big trend or a big requirement there is being able to communicate properly to the IT folks within our customers, because generally speaking, over the years, those guys are like, well, yeah, we're not worried about those types of systems. So, and that's changed. That's definitely changed. So, even from our own standpoint, we have our own people that are trained on that we build the networks now, and we program the switches. But regardless, that all has to get run through and approved by a security team on the customer side. So, I would just say that one thing I've noticed is the trend or the movement towards a greater access to their content and to the actual operational part of it. Again, COVID preventing people from going into a control room. Well, so what? If I can control the system from my house, my apartment, my whatever, and all we got to worry about is one or two people or three, whatever, the talent coming in with one as production assistant. So that's a big thing. That's become standard now. That's it. Like you don't even question that. You design a new facility, you got to make sure you're creating a network environment that allows for that kind of remote control as well. So remote access to content and remote control are very big.
Yeah, I agree on that for sure. And to expand on that, when you mentioned, we're dealing more and more with the IT people, there are more and more spaces, especially in corporate environments, where AV is now mission critical. It used to be, you had a projector in the room. If it went down, it was like, okay, let's get out the old paper and pen and whiteboard or whatever. But now it's like these rooms interconnect multiple locations, they interconnect hybrid users, and it's mission critical. So we have to have SLAs, we have to have reliability, high availability, failover, all of those things, to make sure that these rooms are up and running and don't fail at critical times. So I think that's another big shift is AV is, mission critical in more and more spaces, not just, control rooms and other broadcasts and other places where it always was.
That's a great point. Yep, totally agree. Yep.
So, what are some of the biggest challenges that Pro AV professionals are then facing right now? And I'm going to frame that question also toward Mark. How are you, as at Audio Technica, as a manufacturer, how are you helping address those challenges for those professionals?
A lot of the challenges that are being faced right now actually tie in with what we've all been talking about already, and a lot of that, like Kevin was talking about, if people are able to go and control things from their apartment or from their house or wherever. But I'm also finding too that we've got a lot of, like, during commissioning of a system, which my team sits in on that quite often. There's people from all over the place. They've got a programmer who's in this state, and the camera guys are in another state, and we're somewhere else completely. And I think that, trying to make it so it's not just some great big barrier. It's like, well, no, you have to have 5 different software running, and then you've got to open this up and that up and the other thing. So, we're really trying to streamline that so that, when we all get together on a call, we can solve a problem quickly. Get that up and running and reliable and ready to roll. So that's one of the big challenges I see right now as the interoperability gets more complicated.
Oh, I would absolutely. That's it's like, SDI became a standard, and pretty much you knew if you plugged in take the camera, plug it into the switcher or the router or the DA, whatever it was hitting next, it was going to work. I mean, if there was a problem, it could have been the BNC connector, or it could have been, oh, you forgot to turn the power on, whatever, something simple and stupid, right? That's not the case anymore. There are some of our customers are opting to go for a more of a end-to-end solution with us. You can't really do it, but they're skewing towards trying to get like one manufacturer, because the more people you introduce to the integrated system, the odds of there being an interop issue increase. Now they get solved, but I would agree with Mark. It's like we've found that, like on our side, like the amount of time to commission a system, test it all out 100%, make sure it's all working, that seems to be, it's increasing. In some cases it goes very fast. In some cases it's not so fast, but it's a different type of procedure now than what we had done for years. I would add to this that I think on the end user side, the customers they're seeing some nice whiz bang things that I can have 8K video or let's say 4K. Okay, fine. And we can have immersive audio and all this great stuff. Making the case to your finance people, your CFO, like, why should we go there? Why should we do that? I think that's getting a little more challenging for the end users. I mean, you could show something and say, look how cool our competitor looks on camera and how great they sound, and that's impressive, right? But you're sitting in those meetings and people are talking about spending a lot of money for an upgrade, and it's like, what am I really getting for this? If that seems to be a little bit more challenging these days, is how we're helping our customers make that case a bit, so that's something worth mentioning, I guess.
So we had a couple of questions come in from our audience. The first one is from James and Victoria. This was in response to what you said earlier when you said that, AV is being brought in earlier with the architect. So James asks, what are the most effective ways you've influenced architects to call the AV consultants?
I mean, there's a couple different ways. So one way that the CTI tries to make ourselves available to architects is we offer an AIA lunch and learn. So architects have to get these continuing credits, and they have to have someone come in, give them a presentation, and then they get credits. And so as a provider of those credits, we can reach out to any architect and say, hey, can we get on your schedule? Do you have like these regular lunch and learns? So that's one thing that we do. And then, we have specific marketing language, specific, images and things, and, marketing campaigns that target architects. And we've had success with that.
Another question that came in from the audience, this one is from John. Do you guys see any application for the use of AI in the video and audio processing area, as for like beamforming mics, speakers, and voice or facial recognition?
Well, certainly, for beamforming mics, I'm talking through a beamforming mic right now. I mean, there's a certain, I hesitate to call it AI, but there's certainly a lot of algorithms going on in there, things that we've actually, recorded samples of things so that it doesn't confuse the mic to include that in the algorithms. But I think that, overall, as far as transducer technology comes from microphone side of it, it's pretty mature technology. Even beamforming mics are pretty mature. It's what happens after that, which I think is what the question there applies to, and where it can get really exciting, is what can you do with AI? I think one of the key things that we're starting to see more of, I've seen other manufacturers start to incorporate machine learning in noise cancellation, because it's easy to get rid of a noise like a fan or something like that. It's easy to EQ things so that a room sounds the way it's supposed to, but random noise that come out that show up that aren't voices, isn't actually the person speaking. That's where having that AI and having that machine learning can really, really clean things up. I think we're seeing a lot of that, starting out now, like I said, in a bunch of manufacturers, but I think that's really, from an audio processing side of things, where things are going.
And then final question. They're very active in the audience right now. This one's from Scott. He says, with AV being considered mission critical now in a lot of spaces, and the amount of work that needs to be done in low or no dust environments, are the construction schedules accounting for that time better? That's a really good question, actually.
I would say that they're not accounting for it.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, it's as Victoria, like we actively communicate with the typical architects that are usually involved with like the media type projects, but not always, right? So I would say the answer is I don't think that they are accounting for that properly. I think there's still a bit of like, well, it's just a TV and a camera, right? So what's the big deal? Like, just go hang it, and when it's just a wire. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
And you can throw into that mix too, with this, the scalability and connectivity, all these fancy words or whatever, common words that imply a fancy solution. You have things like having to coordinate with an internet service provider, right? A Verizon or a Comcast, whoever it is, and that's a piece too that's not necessarily easy to do. I've seen them, or we have seen those kinds of folks start to develop their own division that can communicate more efficiently with folks like us, or Victoria's company, or Mark's company. Like, hey, well, this is what we need to do, and we need to really go through this and figure out what the QoS is, and and what's your firewall. That's another big part of this. That we're working with a customer right now that wants to connect together 3 different states and studios in 3 different states. And when I brought that up on the call, they were kind of like, oh, well, that's this person, and that person isn't normally here. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to fix that one. So I think they're not accounting properly for the amount of time that is needed to really get all the benefits of the current technology that's out there right now. Definitely could use a little bit more time. They never want to hear that, but it's that upfront planning and all of that time that really does need to go in properly up front. Everybody saves so many headaches and cost overruns when you take the time up front to plan it properly. So I mean, it's kind of common sense, but You know, a lot of people, once
Yeah.
they get the project green lit, they just want to get moving, and you know, where's those TVs hanging on the wall? Let's go. You know, it's like, yeah, there's more that we have to talk about. So
Yeah.
I think, especially in new construction, this goes back to what we've already hammered quite a few times. Is just how early we're brought into into a project. Because when it starts off, it's this well orchestrated Gantt chart of when everybody's going to do their thing. But by the time we get there, because we're the last ones at the end, it's really nothing more than a well orchestrated train wreck because we're all just kind of forced to do, all right, you've got 15 minutes here or, 2 hours there. Um, be involved earlier in a project, I think, can help us get more towards that. But, when we're called in, hey, certificate of occupancies in 10 days and we need this up and running, you've got to figure out how to make it happen.
right. Yeah, we
For sure.
try to avoid the triage approach to the
Right.
to these projects, but sometimes it's unavoidable, you know.
Exactly. So, looking forward, what do each of you think are going to be the most critical factors driving innovation and success in the Pro AV industry over, let's say, the next year?
Hmm.
Sorry, that's like a really hard one. You can think
It
for a
is.
second.
That is a tough one.
I love to
I
just throw a tough question at you guys and be like, okay, give me an answer immediately.
I think one of the exciting things, obviously is AI. I think we're just on the precipice, and a lot of products that we have now, it's more automation really than true AI. And there's some really cool stuff with beamforming mics, with tracking cameras, and I'm just excited to see where that's going to be in 12 months because the innovation once we really have AI and it starts taking off, it's going to be exponential. What it can do and what it's going to do in our spaces and allow for what users like the previous session they were saying bring your own intelligence to the meeting. For me, I think in the next year that's we're sick of talking about it now and it feels slow, but as soon as it's going to be exponential the way that it takes off and impacts our lives.
And I think from a systems integration and consulting and design standpoint, we've brought on board our own software designers and people that can interface with the architects by creating our own renderings and being able to bridge over a little bit more and close the gap between the other different disciplines that need to be successful in these projects. So for us, it's we have software development on our team now, definitely network engineers, and then network engineers that are savvy in audio and video protocols because those are a little bit different things there, right? So yeah, I mean, from the design and build out perspective, we've had to grow our own team, and I think that at least not everybody, but a lot of our customers, it's not like it was like I started in this business a long time ago, if unfortunately or fortunately, but when I started, like I was in a room with 6 or 8 other engineers that had years of experience. They knew what they wanted, and they could provide the direction and they'd already been through the fact gathering with their executives to say, what are we trying to do here? This is what we're trying to do. Okay. And then we would come in and be able to basically follow the bouncing ball and execute. And I see that as something that's changing on the end user side where those types of folks aren't around as much, and they're really relying more on people like Victoria's company, my company, to Mark, for Audio Technica, whoever. Like they're relying on us to be able to fill that space in that they used to provide. And what's I don't want to say left behind, but what we need them for sure is the IT part of it, because so much of this runs on switches and gets into firewall rule settings and things that that's a big shift to me, like in the last few years, is that we're absorbing more of the heavy lifting to get them across the finish line, and there's less on the end user side, at least from what I see anyway.
Yeah, I'd say like like Kevin said, it's getting much more complicated. And what we have been focused on and what we are continuing to increase our focus on is that interoperability. Because so Audio Technica, we could make, everything possible in the chain, in the complete chain if we wanted to, and people would buy that. But more often than not, they want a feature from this and a feature from that, which is very, very common in the United States anyway, to have this custom bespoke kind of system. And being able to integrate with those, to look outside of my box and into somebody else's box and understand how we can bring that data together is something that we've really focused on. And taking that data, and to me, kind of an important thing is the correlation of that data. Because by taking data from cameras and camera tracking kind of things and AI, face recognition, and taking things from beamforming microphones and the angles of where sound's coming from, I think bringing that all that information somewhere and correlating it can really make all of these features stronger than they are now.
So we just have a couple minutes left here. So as we're winding down, I wanted to go around and just ask each of you to give just a few final thoughts on, the state of the Pro AV industry right now. And Mark, when I call on, I would like you to go first, and I'd love an update on what you guys have going on at Audio Technica.
Well, we have a lot going. There's always a lot going on here. Too much for me sometimes, but I think that as we've kind of touched on before, and it was mentioned about COVID. I think Kevin mentioned it. Is COVID really kind of opened everybody's eyes up to what some of the potentials are? Everybody was used to meeting in a room. 15 years ago, you go into a room in a meeting, and most everybody's in that room, and you've got one or two people who are remote or whatever. You don't really care about it. It's like, whatever, I can hear it, I can see it. But that's not the case anymore, not even close. So really, COVID, among many other things, obviously kind of really has forced our hand much further into the future than we would have been. And so we in a lot of cases, we're doing a lot of catch up there to try to
Mhm.
keep up with that. But it's exciting because we're starting to see things that we really didn't think was possible 10 years ago. Now it's like, well, that's a request I'm getting every day. As far as how we're looking forward, how Audio Technica is looking forward, while, like I said, transducers themselves are a fairly mature technology, but what you can do with that information when you capture it is something else entirely. And how we process it in our beamforming mics, how we are handling wireless microphones, and again, maintaining that interoperability with all these other ones. That's really where our focus is. I guess integration would be the one word to sum that up.
Yeah. Kevin, what about you? Any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've been through the evolution of component analog video, composite video, serial digital video, SD to HD, so on and so on and so on. And I think we're really, the AV world this is a really exciting time. And I think it's going to continue to grow and expand because of this development of interoperability between the different manufacturers. And as AI takes a more of a foothold, I think you're going to see a lot more software solutions that can give the customer, what the end user, like what they're looking for. They're kind of have like a brand new canvas that they can just paint and say, well, I want to do this, or I want to do that, and I want to do this, I want to do that. And this is an exciting time. I think there's a lot of solutions out there, and yeah, I mean, it's a very cool time to be doing this stuff.
Victoria, what about you?
Yeah, just to echo what Mark and Kevin were saying, I mean, COVID was definitely a catalyst for innovation and really just catapulted our industry. I had been trying to sell video conferencing for 20 years, and then all of a sudden everybody wants it. They're coming to me now. And so, yeah, I think it's a great time to be in the industry. I think I think we're finally poised and ready to really take the bull by the horns and kind of bring these solutions to our clients in unique ways and bespoke the solutions for them, like Mark had said. It's definitely a great time to be in Pro AV.
Awesome. Well, the actual last question I'm going to ask each of you is where can people find you online if they would like to contact you after this? And where can people reach out to your companies? Mark, you want to start us off?
Oh yeah, certainly. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Mark Donovan, Donovan. Simple spelling. You can also come to the company's website, which is www.audio-technica. I can move my head out of the way, you can actually see that. Audio-technica.com, and certainly reach out, see what our products are, and send an email to my applications team.
Awesome. Kevin?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kevin Henneman. And our company is also on LinkedIn, KMH Integration. And our website is www.kmh-integration.com. Those are probably the best ways to get a hold of us.
Perfect. Victoria?
You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Victoria Ferrari, and the company is CTI, and our website's just cti.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. And big thank you to Mark and, of course, to Audio Technica for sponsoring this panel. It's been great talking to you guys.